If you're thinking about moving to Las Cruces, you've probably already Googled something like, what are the best neighborhoods to live in Las Cruces? And I'm going to tell you something that might make your search a whole lot easier. And I think that Googling the best neighborhoods in Las Cruces is the wrong question. Because I can take 3 buyers with the exact same budget and I might take every single one of them to a completely different part of Las Cruces. One wants a brand new home where they barely have to touch the yard. Another wants an acre, some privacy, and the Organ Mountains practically sitting in the backyard. And somebody else wants an older southwestern home with vigas and mature trees and a courtyard where they can sit outside with their coffee. Those people probably shouldn't be looking in the same neighborhoods. So instead of asking what's the best neighborhood, the better question is, what part of Las Cruces fits the way you actually want to live? That's what I'm going to help you figure out today. And if you're seriously considering relocating here, I have a free Las Cruces relocation guide linked below. Grab that because it'll give you a good starting point before you even get on a plane. Or spend 3 hours scrolling through houses online wondering why they all seem to be completely different parts of town. All right, so first, how important are the views? If mountain views are high on your list, you're coming to the right place. One of the coolest things about Las Cruces is that we are surrounded by mountain views. Obviously, everybody thinks about the Organ Mountains, and for a good reason. They're gorgeous. But those aren't the only views we have. Depending on where you are in Las Cruces and which direction the house faces, you might have the Organs right outside your backyard. You might be looking towards Picacho Peak. You might have the valley views, city lights, or those beautiful layers of mountains in the distance that completely change throughout the day. And this is something I talk about with relocation buyers all the time because I'm saying I want mountain views actually isn't specific enough here. Where do you want to see it? Do you want to sit on your back patio in the evening and look at the Organ Mountains while you sip a glass of wine? Do you want to see them from your living room? Or do you want a really dramatic up-close mountain view? Or do you just want that wide open New Mexico scenery? Because those are all different searches. And please don't assume that because you saw one house in a neighborhood with an incredible view that every house in that neighborhood has it. Absolutely not. I know that because of my neighborhood. Views can change from one street to the next and sometimes from one side of the street to the other. So when views are important to one of my buyers, I'm not just looking at the neighborhood, I'm looking at the lot, at the orientation of the house, what's around it, and where you're actually going to spend your time. Most importantly, will they be building behind that? Because if you're moving to Las Cruces partly because of the scenery, I want you to actually be able to see it all the time. And once you get used to drinking your coffee or having a glass of wine with those mountains in the background, you get a little spoiled. You actually get a lot of spoiled, okay? If you want something brand new, you do have options. We have new construction in different pockets throughout Las Cruces, but Metro Verde and Metro Central are definitely areas I'd want you to see because that's where a lot of the growth is happening. We are also continuing to see development further east along Highway 70. And what's interesting about new construction here is the range. Depending on inventory and the market and when you're looking, you may find brand new homes starting in the high 200s. Then you can move into a completely different home and price points around the golf course where newer homes can easily get into the 5 and 6s and above. And then I get buyers who say, Elaine, I want new construction, but I don't want my neighbor close enough to know what I'm having for dinner. Okay, that's a completely different search. And once we start talking about larger lots, more square footage, upgraded finishes, or something that feels more custom, you can very easily get into the 600s and above. And customs are an important word. There's a difference between buying a beautiful production home where you might choose some finishes and having something truly custom built around you. If you want a very specific floor plan, a larger lot, a particular orientation because you want the Organ Mountains off the back patio, the higher end finishes, your search and your budget changes. So I wouldn't just tell somebody, go to Metro Verde, that's where the new houses are. I want to know what new construction means to you. Affordable and low maintenance, near a golf course, larger lot, custom, or do you simply want to be the first person putting a key into the front door? We can find different versions of all of that here. Maybe you want an established neighborhood instead. Maybe brand new isn't important to you. Maybe you want mature landscaping, bigger trees, and a home with a little bit more personality. Now we're going somewhere completely different. Sonoma Ranch is a good example because there are sections that have had plenty of time to mature. You'll see established landscaping, trees that have actually grown, and neighborhoods that feel completely different from driving through a brand new subdivision. And what I mean by that is these older subdivisions tend to have a little bit more color in them versus newer ones where they seem to be a little bit more modern, whites and grays and stuff like that, right? Then we have areas around MSU and Central Las Cruces where the homes can be considerably older. But this is also where you start finding some really beautiful character. And I love Southwestern architecture. Vigas, exposed wood, saltillo tile, courtyards, adobe inspired details, fireplaces, homes that actually feel like New Mexico. And of course, there's a trade-off. Sometimes we walk into the kitchen and go, okay, we're going to have a conversation about this. The countertops may not be what you choose today. The flooring might need some love, and we may have an older HVAC system or some other components we want to pay a closer attention to during our inspections. But if you're willing to make some updates, you can get things that are incredibly difficult to recreate in a brand new subdivision. Mature trees, established surroundings, bigger lots, and in some cases, and architectural character. Sometimes the house with the slight questionable kitchen is also the one with the gorgeous courtyard, beautiful trees, and exactly the New Mexico character you were hoping to find. If you want land and a little bit of breathing room. Now, if your version of moving to New Mexico includes a little more space between you and your neighbors, I'm taking your search in another direction. Las Alturas is one of the areas I'd want you to see. There's an interesting mix out there. Older homes, beautiful newer homes, custom properties, and vacant land that's still being developed and sold. And when I say larger lots, I'm not talking about 12 extra feet in your backyard. You can get into properties with an acre or more. Try getting that in California. Then you have dripping springs, and the mountain views out there can be absolutely insane. Like, I can't even explain it to you. You're so close to the Organ Mountains that they're almost become the backdrop to that entire property. If your mental picture of moving to New Mexico is sitting outside in the evening, having some land around you and staring at the mountains, yeah, we probably need to drive out there. Honestly, like, if you come to visit, you need to drive out there anyways. It is such a beautiful picture. Now, there are trade-offs. Finding homes in some of these areas under 600 or 700 can be difficult, especially once you're combining acreage, newer construction, a larger house, custom finishes, and those incredible views. We also have practical things to look at. Now, depending on the property, you may encounter propane out there. I said, they're beautiful, they're new, they're custom, but the rest of the city hasn't quite developed into that area, so you might find yourself encountering propane. We need to understand that the water source, the septic versus the sewer road, access, utilities, and exactly what comes with the land. Depending on the property, you may encounter propane. We need to understand the water source, the septic versus the sewer, road access, utilities, and exactly what comes with the land. None of those things automatically make a property bad. I just want you to know about them before you fall madly in love with the kitchen and mentally move your furniture in. Then on the other side, we have Picacho Hills. Completely different feel. And people tend to fall in love with this area. It's established. You'll find larger lots and some absolutely beautiful luxury homes. And depending on where the house sits, you can get incredible views of the mountains, the valley, and the city. I mean, you could probably see as far as El Paso at night when the lights are up. So if you tell me, Elaine, I want some land, I'm going to ask what that means. Do you want an acre where you feel like you're out in the desert? Or do you want a custom home with privacy? Because now that means that you might have a house with a rock wall and still have some acreage outside of that. Or do you want a larger lot, but still want to feel like you're part of an established neighborhood? Because we can honestly find all of that. You don't have to be out in the boonies to have some acreage. Those are three completely different lifestyles. Now, if golf is part of the plan, golf gets interesting because we have several golf areas and they don't give you the same lifestyle at all. Let's start with Picacho Hills. You have larger lots, you have custom homes, you have luxury properties, and some incredible views. You're elevated on the west side. Depending on the property, you can look across the city and valley toward the Oregon Mountains. Then completely change of scenery and head over to Red Hawk. That is much more connected to our newer growth. If you want golf nearby, but you also want a newer home, modern floor plan, and a newer neighborhood, this side of town might make a lot more sense. Plus, you might be able to get into a newer home for a lot less close to the golf course there than it would be in the Picacho Hills area. Then there's Sonoma Ranch. I like Sonoma Ranch buyers who want options. You have different generations of homes throughout the area, established sections, newer sections, different home sizes, and different price points. And you're still close to the golf course. Plus, you are a little bit more close to medical facilities if you're out to the Sonoma Ranch, and restaurants, plus access to everything else. And then there's one people sometimes overlook. We have the NMSU golf course. Now, we're back toward the university and Las Alturas area. The scenery changes again. You can find mature landscaping, greener properties, larger lots, and older homes, newer homes, custom homes. You're sitting much closer to the university with the Oregon Mountains right there. Do you want luxury and a larger lot around the Picacho Hills area, or something newer near Red Hawk? An established neighborhood and a variety around Sonoma Ranch, or mature landscaping and completely different scenery around NMSU and Las Alturas? And even if your golf game is terrible, at the very least the scenery is going to be good because you know you're going to be surrounded by greenery most of the year. If you've been watching all of these newer neighborhoods thinking, Elaine, these are nice, but I need and I want character, we need to head towards Mesilla and some of the older establishments around the central and downtown Las Cruces. Mesilla is a completely different side of living here. It's a completely different animal. You have restaurants, you have the cutest little shops, you have the plaza, and places you can actually walk to. And that matters because Las Cruces as a whole is definitely easier to navigate with a car. So when you find an area where you can walk out your door and actually experience restaurants and shops and events, it stands out because that is not everywhere in Las Cruces. And then there are homes. When I say historic, I mean historics. I showed a home the other day that was built in 1890. That house has already been standing for more than 20 years when New Mexico became a state. Like, think about that. Some of those properties are absolutely beautiful. Old adobe, thick walls, courtyards, original architecture details, mature trees, things you simply cannot recreate in a subdivision that was built last year. But buying a 100-plus-year-old home is obviously different from buying something finished 6 months ago. You have to appreciate the quirks. We may have to pay closer attention to the electrical, to the plumbing, to the roofing, additions made over the years, and what has or has not been updated. Occasionally, you're going to walk into a room and ask, why on earth did they build this? And the answer may basically be because somebody in 1927 thought it was a fantastic idea then. And that's part of the charm. So if you want everything perfectly square, brand new, and predictable, I'm probably not going to take you to Old Mesilla or downtown first. But if you tell me, I want a house with a story, I want mature trees, I want character, and I want to actually experience the area where I live, now we're talking. If your dream is less maintenance and not more, maybe you don't want an acre. Maybe the thought of taking care of an acre makes you think, absolutely not. I moved here to enjoy retirement, not to start a landscaping company. It's fair. Las Cruces doesn't have the massive selection of condos, townhomes, and resort-style communities that you will see in some of the larger cities, but we absolutely have options. We do have condos and townhomes, gated community, 55-plus communities, smaller lot homes, and communities where the HOA handles some exterior maintenance or common areas. Depending on the community, you can also find pools, fitness center, clubhouses, tennis, pickleball, walking areas, and so many other shared amenities. And this can make a lot of sense if you like to travel a lot during the year. Maybe you spend summer somewhere cooler. Maybe you want to leave for 6 weeks and not spend the entire vacation wondering what your yard is doing back in Las Cruces. This is where I want buyers to really understand the HOA. What does it usually cover? Does it cover landscaping? Does it cover your roof, your exterior, your common areas? Are there utilities included? What are you responsible for? Because a low maintenance can mean completely different things depending on the community. And if there's something pretty appealing about enjoying the pool while somebody else worries about the cleaning it, and what if you don't want an HOA? This surprises a lot of people relocating here. You absolutely do not need an HOA to live in a beautiful, well-maintained neighborhood in Las Cruces. We actually have a lot of neighborhoods without them. And I have driven relocation buyers throughout subdivisions where their homes are beautifully landscaped, they are well-maintained, and everything looks great, and they ask, so how much is the HOA here? There isn't one. And they are absolutely shocked. And a lot of what you're seeing is simply pride of ownership. People take care of their homes. But if you want an HOA, we have those too. And they vary considerably. You can find communities with higher monthly dues where you're getting amenities such as pool, clubhouses, fitness, gated access, or common area maintenance. Then you have HOAs that only charge a relatively small annual amount and mainly maintain common areas or community standards. And plenty of neighbors have no HOA at all. So when somebody tells me, Elaine, absolutely not, no HOA, that's actually not particularly difficult request here. But I still want to know why. Is it the addition and expense? You don't like the fewer restrictions? Do you have an RV that you need to park? Or have you spent the last 20 years arguing with somebody because your trash can was visible 14 minutes longer than it was supposed to be? Because if that's the situation, I understand why we're done with HOAs. The good thing about Las Cruces is that you have choices. And finally, your budget doesn't necessarily choose your neighborhood. This might be the biggest thing I want relocation buyers to understand. Your budget matters. Of course it does. If your budget doesn't necessarily lock you into one specific part of Las Cruces, sometimes that exact same budget can buy completely different lifestyles depending on where we look and where you're willing to compromise on. I recently worked with a relocation buyer whose maximum budget was around $400,000. And they had a very specific list. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting us to find everything they wanted in Picacho Hills within that budget. We looked around. We looked at brand new construction around Red Hawk. We looked at sections of Sonoma Ranch. We looked in the North Valley. And then this house popped up in Picacho Hills. Did it need a little bit of love? Yes, but not that much. And what they got in exchange was incredible views, a patio, bedrooms with en-suites right near the golf course, and a lifestyle that checked the boxes that actually mattered to them. It was a gem. Those homes do pop up. That's why I don't want somebody moving here to get so focused on a neighborhood. Name that they completely missed the right house somewhere else. Your $400,000 might buy you a newer, lower maintenance home in one area. In another, it might buy you an older home on a bigger lot. Somewhere else, it might buy you more character, mature landscaping, proximity to golf, or views that you were not expecting. The question isn't just, what can I afford? It is, with what I can afford, which lifestyle matters most to me? And that is a much better way to search for a home in Las Cruces. So where should you live in Las Cruces? There really isn't one best neighborhood. And that's why when somebody contacts me about relocating here, I don't start by throwing 50 listings at them and hoping something sticks. I want you to know how you actually picture yourself living here. Do you want the Oregon Mountains off your patio? Do you want new construction and low maintenance? An acre of privacy? Do you want a golf course nearby? Historic character? Something you can lock up and leave while you travel? No HOA. Once we figure that out, we can usually narrow Las Cruces down to 2 or 3 areas that genuinely make sense for you. And finding the house, that gets a whole lot easier after that. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I have a feeling Las Cruces isn't just a random place you're Googling anymore. You're probably seriously considering making a move, or at least trying to figure out whether it could be right for you. So subscribe to my newsletter. I send out what life here actually looks like, what's happening around town, the housing market, places to eat, local spots worth knowing about, and the questions I hear from people who are relocating here. And if you haven't already downloaded my free relocation guide here in Las Cruces, I'll have that linked below too. And of course, if you're getting closer to actually making the move and you want somebody here who can help you figure out which part of Las Cruces fits you, my contact information is below. Email me, text me, call me. I'm always here. I'll see you on the next video.